Hello, Fraxon Healthcare patients. I'm Dr. Fraxon, and this is video number 2 in our Aging Well series. Video number 1 was our morning warm-up, and today we're going to talk about the 3 different types of exercises that we should consider as we get older. Okay, and those are cardio exercises. We'll go through that in just a moment. Different resistance exercises, and then the last one you may not have heard of are stability exercises. These are exercises specifically designed to try to limit your chances of having a fall that may end up with a fracture. Okay, so let's first talk about the cardio exercises. So as we get older, running sometimes isn't the best exercise for us. It can be a little hard on the knees, the hips, the ankles. The 4 that I found work the best, we have exercise bike or a spin bike like this one here. If you're going to use this option or choose this option, I would encourage you to get fitted really well. Lots of different points of the bike that we can adjust to make sure that it fits us a little bit better. Everything from the height of the steering and the depth of the handlebars to the height of the seat, the depth of the seat. Most bikes will come with little cages for your feet. That allows you to get a bit of power on the upstroke as well as downstroke, so look for that as well. We also have a cushioned treadmill, and I stress cushioned. Some treadmills don't have this type of base that cushions really well. This helps to minimize troubles with the knees and hips that running sometimes brings about. Shoe consideration is something that you need to consider if you're going to use the treadmill, and if the shoes aren't enough to keep your knees and hips from bothering you, you may need to talk to us about having some inserts put into the shoes as well. The other 2 options for cardio are ellipticals, which we don't have here, but standard elliptical works pretty well. They're quite cushioned as well as the treadmills. And the last option is swimming. The pool, completely non-weight bearing, an excellent exercise for cardio, especially as we get older. All of these cardio exercises, you should be looking at what we call a variable intensity workout, meaning that it's not a steady state, meaning that you're running or pedaling at the same pace or at the same resistance, that resistance and pace are going to vary throughout your workout. That's a little easier on the heart, and we find that gives us a better workout. A lot of the treadmills and the spin bikes and even some of the ellipticals will come with programs. These are often done in a variable setting where it's a little easy to begin with, gets a little harder, gets quite hard, and then drops back down to easy again. Each level is probably for about a minute. Going through that series for maybe 4 or 5 repetitions is a really good workout. Okay. The next option or next part of our workouts we want to go through are the resistance exercises. Now, the resistance exercises as we get older need to be focused on trying to get our back muscles, our extensor muscles, so these are our triceps, our glutes, between the shoulder blades, our rhomboids and traps, our quads. We want to get these muscles stronger because these are the muscles that help to stave off the stoop as we get older. We want to try to stay as erect as we can, and our exercises need to reflect that a little bit. So with these exercises, I'm going to go over some different levels that you can exercise at. If you're feeling really, really energetic, you may want to hop to the last one. If you're starting off going, I want to take it a little bit easier, I don't want to incur too much strain or sprain, we'll start you off with something a little bit easier. So the bands, these TheraBands, are a really good way to start exercising if you haven't started. And by the way, this is a beginner video for exercise. If you have already been exercising quite a bit and you want to learn a little bit more, I'd be really happy to, in the office, give you a one-on-one and give you something a little more custom-made just for you if you find this a little bit too remedial, okay? So one of the first exercises we're going to talk about is either a seated or a standing row with a band. So I'm going to walk over here to our gym, and we're going to wrap it around, and you can, as I said, you can do this seated or you can do it standing. I'm going to demonstrate standing. Now we can start with the band a little taut, or if we're going, hey, this is my first time, if we start with the band a little bit slack like this, as we go to create the action of pulling the shoulders back, we only get a bit of contraction at the end and a bit of resistance at the end. Now, the muscles in my back, when I reach forward, they're at a poor leverage advantage. They can get strained out here easy. Whereas when I lean back, they're contracted, they're much more stable, much less likely to get injured. So in the beginning, we may want to start with a bit of slack as we're going through and trying to do our 8 to 10 repetitions. As we get better at it, we may want to stand back a bit, create more tension if our muscles are able to withstand a bit more of a workout. So the bands also come in variable resistances. That with the Perform Better bands, they start off with a yellow, they get a bit stiffer with the greens, and then they tend to max out with the blues, okay? With the TheraBands, now this TheraBand, is the true band. Some of these come in surgical tubing as well. The red tends to be one of the easier ones, then you get into your greens and blues, your browns, and the hardest are your blacks. As well as the bands, we also have dumbbells. So the dumbbells are more of a steady weight, and the difference here is that I would need to bend over to let gravity assist me in getting that action in my middle back. The difference here is that the weight when I'm reaching forward is just the same as I pull back. The band offers a bit more of an advantage that way, that you're less likely to strain, but the weights are also a good one, that if your bands are getting to the point where you don't have the resistance that is going to be a good workout for you, you can always get heavier weights. And as well as the weights, the other option we have is that some of the gym equipment will have these cables, and we can use these cables. Let's put that there. We can use these cables to create a similar action. This is a variable cable, meaning that we can raise or lower it. Most of the cable setups will come with the appropriate handles to be able to put on the machine, so it's a little bit easier for one to be able to create that similar action that we were talking about before. Now, this pulling is helping to strengthen the muscles in the back. Every time we do a pull, we want to do a similar push. And so with the similar push, again, we can reach for our bands. If the band is behind us, we can create a similar action, pushing forward, okay? The other action that we can use is we can do something like a push-up. So if I get down on my hands and knees, if it's a little rough for me to do a full push-up on my toes, I may want to make it easier by getting onto my knees. If even this is a little bit rough to begin with, then doing a push-up against a wall makes it a little bit easier as well. So we're going to pretend that my bar here is a wall, that if I start off and my feet are kind of close, as I'm leaning forward and pushing back, that's not too difficult. And if I want to make it a bit more difficult, I can just move my feet a bit further backwards. And then once I get to a point where I haven't been able to move my feet back any further at risk of falling, then you want to get down on your hands and knees, and if you can, progress to a toe push-up as well. As well as the push-ups where you're pushing and pulling, the idea is that you'd want to do a few more repetitions pulling than you are pushing forward. So if you're going to do 3 or 4 sets of the rows, you might just want to do 2 or 3 sets of either the push-up, the wall push-up, or the floor push-up. We don't need as much strength in our flexors as we do in our extensors as we get older. Another exercise, in a similar exercise, is one where we take our band and put it over something high. Now, if you don't have something like this, the edge of a door works great. If I'm sitting down now and I'm pulling it down towards me, that's also working my lats, my lower trapezius, my serratus anterior. This is a wonderful exercise. It helps to keep us more erect. It's like a lat pull down is the name that you'll often hear with that. You can use bands. Some of the machines also come with cables that one can use as well. And the cables will work like this. Sometimes you'll get a bar that goes across. The bar will allow for a wider grip as well. The opposite of a lat pull down, we're now looking at trying to push some weight up, either straight overhead on a bit of an angle. So I'll use my gym here to show you what that is like. So if I take the dumbbells, make sure that I don't bump my head. And the idea is that if I'm pushing up on a bit of an angle, that's a great opposite exercise to the lat pull down. So this would be like an incline bench press or an incline dumbbell press. And those work really well. The next exercise we're going to look at is going to be more for the arm. And so with the arm, we have our tricep and our bicep. The flexion exercise is, of course, the bicep curl. That we can use the dumbbells for that. We can also use the bands. And as I've mentioned before, if this is a new exercise and you start the band with a little bit of slack, where it really doesn't engage until the very end, that's sometimes the easiest way to get started. And then as you get better at it, you can create more tension as you're bringing the band to full stretch. Now, the opposite of this is a tricep pull down. And again, you can use a door for this. You would get the high edge of a door. I'm going to use my weight machine here just to demonstrate this. So with my arms pulled in tight like this, I'm pushing down, strengthening my tricep. And again, because these are more the extensor muscles compared to the flexor muscles, we'd be looking at 1 or 2 more repetitions in the tricep exercise than we would for the bicep. So the way that I recommend people to do this is that you would start with a tricep exercise and then immediately go to a bicep exercise and just alternate between them. Some people like to do the same exercise again and again. I don't recommend this. The joints in your arm or your legs, depending on where you're doing the exercises, tend not to like it as much. You're at increased risk of strain. So if you can do these alternating exercises where you're doing a pull and then a push and then a pull and then a push, that seems to work quite a bit better. So the next exercise we're going to look at is going to be one for the hips. Now this does not have an opposite. Basically what we're trying to do is we're getting our glutes and our quadriceps to engage. This is a straightforward squat. Just as we mentioned in the morning warm-up, if you haven't seen that video, this was part of that. That as we're going down, we want to make sure that our knees aren't going too far in front of our toes and that we've got good form, it's balanced. We're not leaning over to our left or our right, and we're going down nice and square. Now, as we get better at doing that, we can use our dumbbells again and add a bit of weight to this. If the dumbbells aren't your thing, we can go back to the bands. Put the bands underneath our feet for a bit more resistance. So as I widen my stance and I choke up in the band, that's going to offer some more resistance as I come up. The machines, the gyms, they offer things like, this is a squat rack, and one can put this bar across their shoulders as they're going down to do a squat that's going to strengthen the glutes and your quadriceps as well. Now the last set of exercises we're going to look at are going to be these stability exercises. Now this is something relatively new when it comes to exercising, and specifically for seniors. These exercises are to try to limit your tendency or your chance of having a fall and a fracture. So how these work is that they're not quite all the same. They're a little bit varied. The first one that they talk about is just balance, and this is one-legged standing. So if you can stand on one leg and balance, that's great. If you're able to do this with your eyes closed, that makes it a little bit harder, even better. Then you want to make sure that you can do the same on the other leg as well. Do this in an area where you're not at risk of falling on something, of course. Make sure that there's nothing sharp around. Okay. Other exercises that are great for balance are things like wobble boards. So this is what a wobble board looks like. It's got a round base to it and a flat top with something that we can stand on that's got a bit of traction for us. So when you stand on these, the idea is to see if you can maintain your balance. Can you get a bit better at it and sort of walk the edge around and still maintain your balance? Can you walk the edge around both clockwise and counterclockwise? Now, when people first see these, they go, I don't know if I can stand on that. I'm worried that I might fall off. So what we recommend is that you let yourself get used to it by trying it sitting. Now, these wobble boards can be picked up at 2 or 3 of the fitness places in town. One is called Flamin Fitness, the other one is called Fitness Experience. They're both in Langford. They carry these types of things. And just rolling your feet around, that's a good way to get your ankles used to this type of exercise, and it works really, really well. The next exercise is one that you need a staircase for. So if you can, picture me being on a staircase holding onto the banister. And the idea with this is that as we go down the stairs, in my case, my left leg is reaching down for the stair. I've got to make sure that my right hip and knee and ankle can handle that type of stress. So this is a little bit of what is sometimes referred to as a pistol squat. And what this is trying to do is to make it so that if the stair below either gives way or there's something slippery on it, that my hip has enough stability that I'm not going to fall down the stairs. And so in turn, I'm going to make sure that I can stand both on my left hip as I go down, pretending that I'm holding on to a banister and touching that stair, coming back up, touching that stair again, coming back up. 3 or 4 repetitions is usually sufficient for that type of thing, okay? The last exercise in our stability category involves a chair, okay? So what we're going to do, and the chair, by the way, needs to have arms. That as we sit down in the chair, the idea is that we're trying to strengthen the muscles that attach our shoulder blade to our rib cage. And so as I grab hold of the arms of the chair, I'm putting quite a bit of weight through my feet to begin with as I get out of the chair. But then what I'm doing once I get up to this point where I'm almost out of the chair is I'm falling through my shoulders, and then I'm trying to push myself up, kind of like I'm trying to look over somebody who's really tall in front of me. And then you fall through again and try to push up one more time. What this is doing is strengthening the muscles that attach your shoulder blades to your rib cage. And it also makes it quite a bit easier for one to be able to get out of a chair when you do this. Now, one bonus exercise involves the use of a dumbbell again. And the idea is that you're going to start with the dumbbell very low. You're going to reach the dumbbell up as high as you can, and then reach it back down. This is to simulate putting groceries, like a large bag of sugar or flour, for example, up on a high shelf if it's a little bit heavy. What we don't want to have happen is to get the bag of flour or sugar up to this point and have yourself become unsteady and have it fall on you. So taking a dumbbell or some kind of weight and starting it down on the floor, reaching it all the way up, placing it on an imaginary shelf, bringing it back down, repeating that 3 or 4 times. That's a great exercise to make sure that you have the stability to do that. So we've covered our cardio, we've covered some resistance exercises, and we've covered a few stability exercises. As I said before, this is all very beginner. If you've been exercising much longer and you'd like something a little more difficult than this, I'd be happy to go over that type of program with you in the office. I hope you've enjoyed our video. Look for more in the future. Thanks for watching.